Welcome back.
Yeah. Well, we're back for another new media show, Todd.
Yes, we are. And one more here before I head back to the United States and back in the other studio. So one more next week,
Okay.
and
All right.
then home. Of course, then it's podcast movement. So probably we won't be doing one that week. But
Yep.
how's are you going to be going, or have you decided to?
Um, I don't have current plans to go, but
Okay,
things could happen last minute. Who knows?
yeah, understand. The uh the week has been, I guess for a better word for me is all good plans. We bought a bunch of advertising on Pod News and
Oh, you
and I was fully expecting to have had my GMP launch for 2 weeks. And we've had to change up the ad copy, and I think we'll finally be ready next week. It's just, nothing ever goes perfectly in final testing, and you find little quirks. So probably Tuesday of next week. Those of you that want to see guessmatch.pro and its beta release, and will be a free beta for 90 days. So should be
okay?
fun to see how that. We're gonna need guest. I think we're gonna be able to fill it with podcasters, but guest is gonna be the challenge. So if you want to be a guest, we're definitely gonna want you to register. So
You got to have both, right? You got to have the hosts and the guests.
yeah, yeah, and I will talk a little more about that next week when it's if we actually get it online and it's ready. So we had a shakedown today during the team meeting, and there's about that many issues left, about 10 issues left, but we'll see. But Netflix is rattling their savior, not their savior, their saber, not savior,
Right.
saber.
Well, there's been rumblings about this, and they've been playing around with podcasting for many years now, actually. So it just appears that the big shift here is that it's more of an emphasis on the video side, where in the past it was kind of more focused on the audio side, which maybe didn't work out as well for them.
Well, makes sense,
Yeah,
but
right.
and again, I think it goes back to anyone that is putting just audio up on video platforms. I don't think it's very effective per se.
It doesn't exactly seem like a very smart thing to do, does it?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so at all. But I think what it really says, and I think this is starting to be talked about just a little bit, is am I out of focus? Mm,
Oh, you seem to be okay
yeah,
on my end.
the what it really means is that podcasting talent is probably now going to start to be seen more as actors, or maybe not. Maybe that's not the right word, but maybe teams of shows are going to be started to pick up for more traditional media. And I wouldn't necessarily call Netflix traditional media, but they definitely were a disruptor of the industry. So what happens now? Do YouTubers move into Netflix and sign big deals and get shows? And are we going to start seeing more of this? But in reality, though, with the shift of people, not watching traditional cable, um, and that business really in trouble from a ratings revenues. I can't tell you the last time I watched anything on regular TV that was not,
Traditional cable
yeah,
television, right?
traditional.
Right.
But besides maybe news snippets from different news organizations. Other than that, it's
On
been,
YouTube.
yeah, yeah, usually on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or like here, I
Right.
get my 5,000 channels for free. That's on a little Android box.
Mm-hmm.
Where I can watch Fox and all the I can watch anything. I can watch anything on it's 5,000 channels of every channel in the world. I don't know how they do this and run this bootleg infrastructure, but it's pretty incredible. And again, I don't pay for it. It's just it's part of my rent.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's
guess I
interesting
do
what's
pay for it.
happening. It's interesting what's happening with Netflix. As Netflix and Amazon Prime kind of and YouTube are replacing the traditional TV networks and channels and stations and things like that as we move into a new generation, a new era, right? I mean, that's kind of what's happening here. Because there's talk that Netflix is going to get involved in short form content, reoccurring video content designed to build an ongoing subscriber engagement, which they've been doing reoccurring video content for years. I'm not sure what the difference is between that and a video series, but the the line on Netflix between what a TV show is and what a movie is have been blurred for years.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And so what we see is really a series on Netflix has just been a episodic kind of presentation, really. And then the movies are typically shorter in length clips, which most people, when they typically think of movies and TV, they think of TV as shorter form content. But and the movies are long form content, where in some ways it's kind of that is flipping, right? So I'm not quite sure entirely what that means for what they're going to do with video podcasts, but it could be a hybrid model here, and there may be some new formats of content. If you look at what's on YouTube today, there's long form documentary type productions that are happening over there that are high value productions that I think would fit perfectly fine on a Netflix platform. But the big question is it going to be like like it used to be with Joe Rogan? Is it exclusive content
Mhm.
over there? Is that
Right.
what it turns out to be? Or is it a dual distribution strategy? I kind of doubt that it's going to be the content that generally on Netflix is going to be available on YouTube, or out as a video podcast in an RSS feed. So, this is where we get into the definition shift of what a podcast is. That they're using this term video podcast loosely,
Yeah.
just like YouTube is. So,
Well, one thing's I I guess in the end, as long as creators get paid, I guess that is that's it's all good for the space, and time will
yeah.
tell what happens there. And they're I don't know if I would go to Netflix for shorts though. That's probably not the place I would go and watch shorts. But who knows? We'll see. A change of interface, anything is possible. One thing that
Well, if you
is
think about just taking what YouTube is doing and transferring the model over to Netflix, you can kind of envision what they might be thinking, right?
yeah,
Is
but
to
yeah,
uh,
when I go to Netflix, I'm looking for some long form content. I'm usually looking for a series or a movie. Yeah, I'm not going over
well,
there to
that's what's in YouTube today.
yeah, but
So,
again, I don't go to Netflix to find a 60-second short. That's what I was referring to. I
right,
don't know.
right, you don't, but that may be something they're bringing to the
Yeah,
platform is what I'm
it
trying to say.
seems weird. Seems like it would things are cluttered already over there, so I don't know. Time will tell. Hey, Overcast is looks like Marco. Congratulations, finally. Welcome to the party. Looks like he's adding transcript support to uh, the platform. Now, it's not completely clear if he is going to use transcripts he's creating or the ones that are in the RSS feed, because been spotted testing what's called a transcriber tool. So, I would hope he would adopt the transcript tag, and
I,
that would be nice if he did that. And if he did, he would join Apple Podcast, and Pocket Cast in the party there. Of course, Spotify did their own thing. They didn't want to do what everyone else is doing. So at the same
right.
time, we kind of talked a little bit about it before the show started about Spotify missing their advertising numbers. The profit was up, but ad revenue was down. So you saw something to
That's
the
because
effect.
everybody's shifting over to subscription models. That's the I mean, that's where the big momentum is, you
Mm,
know.
paying
It
for
does
it, but
raise the question about the long-term future of advertising.
but if they then let me think about this for a second. So I don't pay for Spotify, um,
But how much do you use Spotify?
barely.
So
Some
that's the
people,
question. It doesn't
I
matter.
assume if you are a heavy user, but even if you're a heavy user, you're still getting subjected to ads. That's my
If you're not a
understanding.
subscriber, right.
No, I if you are a subscriber, you still get a portion of ads, I thought. It doesn't
Oh, you do?
guarantee an ad-free experience if you're paying for it. I would hope so.
Yeah. Well,
But then do they take a
that's a good
portion of
question.
that revenue and give that to the creators? That,
Well,
the
that's exactly what the YouTube platform is doing.
yeah. Well, there's never been transparency on what that equates to. If I pay whatever the YouTube premium is, and if I watch, 10,000 hours, well, that's an exaggeration, but if I watch X number of hours a month across X number of properties, then, do they take $5 of that and split it between all those hours? Because,
My understanding is they do. So
yeah, I
it's a
wonder.
share of audience that takes a percentage of that subscription revenue.
It'd be nice
Right.
to know what those actual numbers were, what that ratio is, because it can't be very high. They must take a majority of that money for revenue for the company. I just can't see it. Because YouTube's not an inexpensive machine to run. So, eh,
Well, we may be able to see it in the back end tools of the monetization stuff. I just haven't dug into it
mm.
to try and find out what the numbers are back there for subscription revenue share. But I think I have seen it in the past broken out as a separate line item
so,
in the monetization
so,
tools.
so is a stock, the stock report or whatever they do, their earning analysis or their earning announcement.
Spotify?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Daniel Eck basically said, "Hey, we had some execution challenges," and what that meant, someone getting fired.
Well, the ad chief Lee Brown
Oh,
is departing on a
departing.
mutual agreement,
Interesting how they termed that.
which is code for yeah, you're out, dude.
Yeah, you didn't hit your numbers.
You didn't get your number, so it's
Well,
time to pack up your
yeah,
bags.
that's the way it
Right.
is in real life, and
In a
you know.
public company that
Yeah.
gets
Well, even
that's
private companies that have a board of directors, you don't hit your numbers. Okay, we're going to be looking for someone to help us get these numbers.
right.
So
Right, and he may be in a no-win situation here too,
oh
because
yeah,
the ad
but
market I think is a little soft right now.
yeah. And at the same time, RSS.com finally joined the party. Hey, welcome guys. And they're doing programmatic ads now for any show. They're doing the same thing as we are. Um,
Very, very creative naming that they gave this, right?
Yeah.
Paid.
Paid programmatic ads. And they're doing a $1 payout threshold that, I give them credit for doing a dollar. The overhead to process payments and just the amount it costs you 30 cents to send a dollar. So I don't know if I'd want a payment at a buck.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So good for them.
$1 payout threshold. Interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
from a if I tried to do that, my CFO would be like, I think our minimum is 25 or
I don't think
50,
there's
one
any
of the two.
problem with setting it at a minimum amount. I
Yeah,
think
but the processing fee, that's the problem. To
well,
process a
to
check
do a
or
dollar payout. Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
check or pay.
I
When
mean,
we
not
did,
a 20 or 25 or $50 payout amount. I mean, if you look at
yeah,
what the YouTube platform does, they have $100 threshold.
Yeah, we said I think 25 or 50 is what ours is, for the first,
Yeah,
and we only pay by PayPal. That's very rare do we pay by check. It's kind of a special exception to do that.
and I
Uh,
think you can transact that for free, can't you? You get
and PayPal, no.
oh, it is.
Either we pay a
Or
fee
the
or they pay a
or the
fee.
recipient pays, right,
Yeah.
right.
I think we end up what we do is I think we pay the fee. But we do
Mhm,
a bulk transaction so that we're doing all of it at once and just get
right.
one transaction. So, um, Time publishes 100 best podcasts of all time. I don't know if you saw this list from
Yeah,
Time
this
or
came
not.
out a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
This
did
came
it?
out a couple weeks ago, yeah. And it was interesting because,
That was announced on the
there were
24th,
some
so
big
7 days
podcasts that
ago.
weren't on the list, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was since we've had the show. It was on the 24th. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I
yeah.
thought I saw it before that,
Yes,
so, okay.
maybe, but yeah, just they left, Pod Save yeah, missing
And Joe
and
and
Joe
Joe Rogan.
Rogan, yeah. I wonder if
Yeah,
that
I
was
think
a
there
little
was a few others out there that were missing too.
I wonder if that was a little political swipe by Time.
Well, I think it was a political swipe of, that they didn't want to get engaged in any direction on the politics. So if there was a show that was extreme
Oh,
in what is perception of its politics, I mean, if you look at Pod Save America, that's a left-leaning
yeah.
podcast, and the perception of Joe Rogan is that's kind of a right-leaning. So maybe they just wanted to stay entirely out of politics.
I think they should have a list of the best podcast shows 15 years and older.
Well, that was the intent of the whole thing was what were the podcasts that really pioneered the medium? It's the legacy media stamp of approval, giving mainstream,
Yeah,
shine, I guess, to the medium, but shows that really, boosted the podcast industry early on. Um, and to leave out a huge show like Joe Rogan
yeah.
seems to be like maybe
But there's shows on
missing the
here that
forest through the trees. Right.
if I look through these shows, there's some shows here that are pretty new that did not shape the industry.
Right.
There's some stuff in here. I'm like, I see some
And,
that were yes, but
and a
others
lot
that
of them
were
really weren't that important of shows in in the scheme of things. In the scheme of the medium,
yeah,
they weren't that important.
yeah, and maybe in their own right they were.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that
Um,
they had their audience and they were good shows, and
yeah,
that's nothing to take away from them. It's just, I don't, that 100 list, um, is kind of an exclusive club. It shouldn't
oh
include
yeah,
just anybody.
yeah.
You know.
I'm looking through the
So,
list. I'm like, really?
yeah, right. Well, there's a lot of public radio shows in
A
there too,
lot, a lot.
which leads you to feel that there's a little bit of a public radio bias on that list.
You think?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't think I've listened to a single public radio podcast in 10 years, at least.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and over the last
different
couple of
strokes for
years,
different
they've
folks.
kind of struggled too. I mean, there's been a lot of shows that have come and gone in the public radio space over the last couple of years.
Well, it is being reported though that the podcast market is going to boom towards 40 billion in 2025. Ha 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 ha. We went from what 2.5 billion to 40 bill. Okay, okay. I guess that's the general. That's the word podcast again is being used very liberally here. So,
Well, it's the whole industry. It's not just looking at it from an advertising lens, which
hmm.
I think it's the smart thing to do
But
because the
40
advertising
billion?
side of things have been pretty flat lately,
Yeah, well, we're not getting to the 40 billion number with hosting companies.
or advertising either. So,
Yeah,
it's probably better to start looking at it from the whole industry perspective.
yeah. And again,
Just looks better.
yeah, yeah. And I think too, it's just like, they keep toting this numbers of 4.5 million shows and
Yeah,
584 million listeners. And I can believe the listener number. Actually, I think that number's low, to be
right.
honest with you. Um, I look at, I don't know, I have to go back and probably pull some math, but if we're measuring 300 million downloads a month, um, what does that equate out to in audience alone just from us? Um,
Well, that's a different metric, right?
it is a
It's
different,
hours? It's hours, right? Is that what you were saying?
n-
Or is it just users?
no, they say there's 584.
No, no, you had quoted a number.
Yeah, we measure 300 million downloads a month.
Downloads, that's not
Yeah.
necessarily users, right?
Well, but if you
Or
if you
or
you re, if
listeners.
well 300. Well, there was at least 300 million listens, or thereabouts. And what is the divider factor on that? So if we put out 4 episodes a month, so one person listened to this show 4 times. That's a one. It's not a four from a listener standpoint. So there is some derivative of listeners that are accessing those 300 million downloads.
Yeah, but as far as total listen, I mean, what's the listener number? If the average listener is listening to 5 podcasts, then that would
So then it
take
would
that
be that,
number
yeah.
and
So
divide it by 5,
so 60
right?
million on our side, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So 584 million, and we're not even, you know,
Mhm.
you look at Libsyn and Buzzsprout,
Yeah, you
they're
gotta add
they're
them all
much
up.
bigger. At Spreaker, they're much bigger.
And
So,
there's still I don't know what the percentage is, Todd. Have you seen any numbers lately about what percentage of the podcasts that are out there that are still self-hosted?
hmm.
I mean, at one point, I thought it was like a third of all podcasts were self-hosted.
Well, we have a lot of shows we measure that are self-hosted because they're
Yeah, that
using
are
our,
using your plugin,
yeah,
but they're not hosting with you,
right,
but they're
right,
hosting
right.
it off of their own
Yeah,
website
yeah.
hosting platform.
Yeah, if
Right.
everyone that uses our plugin would host with us, I could hire a couple of more people.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Also, before we move on, we skipped over another Spotify story, which is interesting too, is that Spotify and AI, and this is kind of following in the footsteps of YouTube because YouTube just announced this too, has announced that they're going to translate all the podcasts globally
Yeah.
into multiple languages, just like what YouTube is doing. So if you have a podcast in their platform, I'm not quite sure if they're only doing this with shows that are hosted on
Oh, I'm sure.
Spotify or if they're I'm not sure how they would do this with a show that's a pass through. Do you have
They
any idea, Todd?
they haven't said nothing to us, so I would assume it's only shows hosted over there.
Yeah. But they don't really say that explicitly here in
No.
their
And I'm
messaging.
sure the cost to do this is very high, so I'm sure it's not for every show.
Yeah. It says
So,
that they're gonna allow creators to produce a single show automatically available in multiple languages. So that does sound like it would be
yeah, some of it.
Spotify only hosted
Yeah, yeah.
shows.
I think so.
Yeah.
We've looked at
Which would
that and, ran the numbers, using someone like 11 Labs or someone like that to do the translation. And, it's
that could be expensive if you're using
oh,
11
yeah.
labs.
Well,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of other platforms out there that are publicly available that do English to French, English to German, English to whatever language. Um, there's just not that many. I'm sure we'll probably start to see more, but um, I can't
Yeah, and I'm not
imagine. Go ahead.
it doesn't say in here if they're going to clone the host's
No,
voice
I
or
don't.
that they're just going to apply a like a voice actor
Yeah,
to it. So it'd be a different voice in your podcast.
yeah, it definitely would. And what are they actually doing? Are they taking the? Well, I'm sure they're taking a transcript. Our transcripts come up and have second by second tracking, so I'm
There's
sure that,
probably errors in the transcript too.
oh, that, that. I think that you believe it or not, the transcripts have gotten,
A lot better.
yeah, a lot better. You know, the
Yeah, they have.
accuracy. And actually, I talked to the team about this a couple of days ago. I said, "What level?" Because you can set the translation level with the service we're using right now.
Or
Uh,
the transcription or the
yeah, the
translation?
transcription you can
Transcription.
set the accuracy level. Basically,
Mhm.
pay for so we're paying for the most expensive model that does the gives the highest results. So, and it breaks you and I out. I can see when we get the transcript, um, that it understands when you speak and I speak, and it switches back and forth. Matter of fact, today we were gonna double check to make sure your levels are good, and I forgot to do that before we started today. So,
Yeah,
um,
I turned my own mixer up a little bit too, so I'm a little bit
you turn yours up. All right, so let me boost you here as well.
just in case, unless you're
Th
leveling me down.
There we go. You're
Okay.
Yeah, much better on my
Okay.
side. I put you up a whole bar.
A whole bar? Oh my
Yeah.
god, I've been elevated to another bar.
Yeah, you might actually be louder than me now. That's okay, because you always come across a
For
little
now anyway,
yeah,
right,
you
yeah.
always come across a little soft and alive.
Yes.
I fix
Well, I'm purposely speaking a little louder into the microphone
Oh,
today, so
I definitely, fix you in post, but it doesn't help for your YouTube channel when you're a little low.
right on the live side, right, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
the live ends up being a little quieter. And
I
I
thought this Oh, go ahead,
Go
Todd.
ahead. No, 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 go ahead.
I was surprised when this story popped up in my query about venture capital and their focus on big firm networks trying to reshape podcasting. I don't know if you heard about this, Todd. I haven't heard much about
No.
this. The major venture capital firms, including Andreessen Horowitz, are investing significantly in podcast and creator networks. I didn't realize this.
Well,
Uh, I
I
thought that they would have been backing away from this, but what's really interesting about this is that they're offering executive salaries approaching $500,000 to develop branded podcast networks. This aggressive strategy signals a VC belief in the power of audio first content.
hmm. Well,
That's interesting,
I know I get at
given what
least
the climate is.
I get probably 10 emails a week. "Hey, you ready to sell?" People fishing, M&A
Hmm.
fishers. Um, and I tell them, "Yeah, we're always willing to sell, but we require a $50,000 deposit before we start any discussions."
We're gonna find out if you're serious or not,
Yeah,
right?
find out if you're
Yeah.
serious. Or I have a candidate. I have a company candidate that might be interested in acquiring you. Yeah, it's just, and
Yeah.
you can tell they're all AI generated emails from
Oh, they are,
some
right.
assistant of some, and you look at the email and you go, yeah, they're a firm, and it's so I'm not surprised that they're going after content.
Well, this may be coming off of some research that's been coming out over the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, talking about how the creator economy is going to be like a $60 billion industry in the next 3 years. I mean, you see these marketer research studies that are coming out saying that the the creator economy is going to be, this huge of a market. So all of these VCs are like going, my God, $50 billion, we got to get in on that.
Well,
So,
then what
you know,
happens? I think the flaw here is it's just like okay, let's take a podcaster that pod fades. I've known some very, 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 very successful podcasters that were, even in the early days making more than $100,000 a year
mhm.
in revenue, and they just hit a wall and quit and walked away from significant revenue. And the question then is okay, if you're investing in content, aren't you really investing in the voices and the talent behind those shows? And, I just I even see it on YouTube. People quit because they get tired of the rat race of chasing the algorithm. So what happens when, they make these investments in networks and, talent quits? It's not, it's, I don't think what we've seen, okay, you and I are an example here. We've been doing this show for 15 years or so, or whatever the number is. I think it's like 15 now, maybe 14. And I've been doing and you've been doing your other shows or a series of shows for 20 years. So you've done, but, I consider that my tech show, obviously, I've been doing that show consistently for 20 years. Um, there's not a lot of podcasters that have this type of standing power. Now, obviously, like some big names, Joe and others that are out there, they got a team and they're kind of obligated to create content probably until they die. Um, I just don't know. Is there enough talent out there to, if you're going to build a network of shows and branded shows that you have, I don't know. You'll even look at the night show. How long did what's his name run at CBS uh, before they killed the show? What's his name? Was Colbert or whatever? He ran for
Colbert.
he
Right.
run for what, 15 years or something like that. So I don't know. Maybe
Well,
there's
he
a
had a show for a long time on Comedy Central.
yeah, that's true. So he's been in the
Yeah,
space a lot longer. But
yeah.
how many people in this new media space that are doing YouTube, doing podcasts, and everything else have 20 years of longevity? So I just question when so, and maybe they're only thinking 3 years, so maybe they're not worried about it. But if you're going to build a big show, you need a talent base that is not going to quit. If you're investing, I think the manpower issue is the biggest issue. Maybe they don't look at it that way. Maybe they say people are replaceable.
Well, I tend to look at this from the I was really more shocked around this statement in here that the VCs believe in the power of audio first content.
Yeah.
I think that may be missing the revolution that's happening here. If you look at what's happening with like a Netflix or whatever, that is an energy shift of consequence from the standpoint of, those platforms are, I guess you could look at it that those platforms like Amazon Prime and Netflix and YouTube are replacing cable television, right?
Yeah.
They're actually taking those spots.
But equally
And then
important, the audio audience has not left, has not
right,
declined.
it's still
Yeah.
there, it's still doing well, so they may be taking a contrary view here to the mainstream narrative that, audio has its own kinda carved out niche because of the decline of radio, so the same phenomenon could be happening on the video side, but they didn't mention like a hybrid model of audio and video, which I would have been more likely to have expected to see with these VCs. So it's really interesting that they're doubling down on
I I
audio
I
first.
I think we forget that, and, with all this hype around video,
Yeah.
again, um, the numbers prove that that audience is maybe they're watching more video, but they're definitely listening to as much or equally or more audio
Or
today.
it's growing. It's still
Yeah,
growing, right?
yeah.
So
But
yeah,
incrementally, but we've been growing 1 or 2% a year for or 3%, for years and
yeah,
years and years.
yeah.
But yeah, well,
I always thought it would keep growing, but I
but you
always thought at some point it would kind of peak,
but
right?
you know what VC means, right? Thr-
Vulture capital.
Well, yeah, in 3 years, if you haven't made your numbers, you're gone.
All right. Well,
You run
yeah,
out of runway.
right. You got to start generating revenue. You can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's just maybe they're running out of things to invest in. And that's
Yeah. I don't, yeah.
you know I,
Yeah, it also says in the article, it says there's important discussions revolving around how these significant financial injections could affect independent creators, a the shift economy. I'm not sure what a shift economy is, or alter podcasting, that's traditionally been an open ecosystem. So maybe what they're implying is that this is this is something new and different than what we have had before.
well, they where are they going to find all this talent?
Branded podcast networks. So, what would be the definition of a branded podcast network be?
It would be like anyone that's the it's like Glenn over there at the Horse Network. Yeah, I would assume it would be a
Yeah, but
topical.
yeah, no, but I mean, that word brand
Yeah, it could be. It
implies
could be.
a corporate brand,
Yeah,
right?
it could imply that.
Right. So, like a Tesla creates a network of shows that support their brand.
It could be. Again, I unless we know exactly what that definition is, it could be two ways. It could be sports networks. It could be
Yeah,
the mommy cast. It could be anything here. It could be.
yeah,
They,
yeah. Or
they,
is that a niche branded podcast
yeah.
networks?
The
Kind of
question is
wonder if
the
it
question
includes
is
that.
who's getting this money? Have we heard anyone
I
getting the
haven't
money?
heard of anybody in the
Yeah.
podcast industry getting the money unless it's new people
Oh, hey,
that
hey,
are.
hey, Anderson Horowitz. Hey there. How you doing? Uh, you guys
You
went
need
and
some technology to
you,
distribute this
you,
stuff,
you guys
right?
you guys
Yeah.
went and talked to us 20 years ago, so
Times 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 here.
well, I went.
Time's
Uh,
up.
yeah, Anderson Horowitz didn't want to talk to me about investing in a
Or
podcast hosting company. Or at the time, we were a media company. We weren't a hosting company.
well, the Andreessen Horowitz,
Andreessen, yeah, whatever. How do you ever
it,
say it?
it has been around a long
Yeah,
time. They've
they're
been
they're
around a long
big.
time, and they're the biggest
Yeah,
of the VC capital companies. All right.
yeah. But
So anyway.
I send that guy that told me I was too old to build a business. I send him a note every year, an email saying, "Hey, we're still fucking here." yeah,
Is there a some sort of a middle finger that gets
yeah,
involved
yeah,
in that
a little,
as well?
involved me being thrown out on my ass when I went to, you know, I got like 15 minutes with him, and just like get out of here. You're too old. Your team's too old. You don't live here in Silicon Valley. Good luck to you.
Right, right.
As he's, he didn't put,
Don't wear that suit in here again.
well, that happened in New York. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
yeah, and that was the same day I
Hey,
got a flat tire. I was so
hey,
pissed off. I ran into a curb and punctured a tire that day on a rental car. Yeah.
well, it's probably good that you took it out on the tire instead of him,
There's nothing more degrading than being told you're too old, too old
right?
to build a business. You don't have the energy. And of course, I was
Oh,
still in the Navy, so it wasn't like I could, you know, like I could move to Silicon Valley. So,
yeah, Todd, I think you want to be with a company that thinks of you as a slave, right? Yeah. You're too young. You don't have enough energy
yeah,
for this.
or
Yeah.
the uh, I won't say the group name in New York, where I was grabbed by my sleeve and basically told, don't ever come in here with to see me again in my team with a JC. It wasn't JC Penney's. It was a Macy's rack suit.
We will not be demeaned like
Oh
that.
yes, looking me up and down. Of course, I did probably had $80 black shoes on, and there wasn't
Yeah.
there wasn't a brand thing on me. We were just poor.
That's why the hell we're here. We don't want to be
Uh,
poor anymore, right? Yeah.
yeah. And, to be honest with you, um, that pissed me off pretty bad too. But I ended up going to Brooks Brothers and, buying a suit,
Upgrading.
upgrading
Oh, you
suit.
did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, again, we had no money. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
it's
say,
like,
you lost money on
it's
that
like
deal.
$2,000 I didn't need to spend,
Right.
And then you end up, then how things, you go to California, you show up in a polo shirt and you're good. They don't want to see you in a suit. You walk in a suit, they're like, hey, or, we're right down the street from the beach. Do you really need to be here in your blazer and your tie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's so funny how the difference between co-star when it comes to clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
so Todd,
Edison's,
I
go
guess
ahead.
there's a shakeup in podcasts host leadership out there that's occurring right now with the Gen Z and women-led podcasts surpassing traditional giants like Joe Rogan. I don't know if that's entirely true, but
Well, I hope
I
they are
think it's
shaking it up.
definitely shifting. It's definitely
Yeah,
shifting.
good.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Women. I think we see it. I think we see more women creating new podcasts than
Yeah.
men right now. So it
Yeah.
makes
Well,
sense
there's
to
definitely
me.
a lot more energy around women-led podcasting companies,
Well, one
as
thing,
well as hosts.
one thing that we do see is men are more likely to go solo, and women are more likely to have a team.
Team from the standpoint of
like
on
like
mic
or
or off
people that are
mic?
helping them, 2 or 3
Oh,
people. They're
right.
more than like, and maybe it's a friend or whoever, but we do see that a lot of lady shows are not solo shows now. That
Well, so when you
switches.
say solo show, let's be clear. Are you talking about supporting team, or are you talking about non-solo
Solo,
shows from
like
a hosting
Geek
standpoint?
News Central, host, talent, marketing,
Oh, do it all.
yeah, do it
Okay.
all. So we see more women having, a small team that helps them with all of that. So typically
Okay.
I'll get on
All
a
the
call.
post production
Yeah.
and stuff like that, right?
Typically I'll get on a call with um a new creator that's a man, and it'll just be him or maybe his
He's
co-host.
trying to, be Superman and do it all
Well,
himself,
it's
right? Is
just, and
that what you're
then
saying?
I get on a call with a new creator that's a woman. More often than not, there's 2 or 3 people on the call, not necessarily a co-host, or there's a co-host
Uh,
and there's someone
yeah,
that's
there could be a
helping.
co-host. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
So, but again, there's always seems like there's a little more, and it kind of makes sense to me a little bit in the way.
I think it's very, to be a successful podcaster now, I think it's very complex game right now. All these platforms want you to publish directly to them. Of course, it's
Well,
going to add work.
just two.
What do you mean, just two? They
You,
all want you to publish
YouTube and
directly.
Spotify. No,
No, X,
oh well,
Instagram,
okay.
Facebook,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, TikTok, all of them want you to publish directly to them. There's no syndication to those
yeah.
platforms. I mean, of any consequence,
Well, unless you're restreaming like we are, and it just goes up there.
Yeah. Well, that's what the only way to do any kind of a simul posting to all these platforms is to do a live show.
Yeah. Hey, if you're watching
Because
live, make sure you check in and say hello. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
yeah, and so it takes a team to plus trying to manage these algorithms. With the reels and the slideshows that people are putting up on their posts on LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff like that, trying to do these stories, right? These slide stories. All this stuff takes a lot of production work and a lot of work generally. I think over time AI is going to, help with a lot of this stuff, but currently AI is still, I don't think AI is still quite good enough to 100% rely on. So
It
it's getting there,
requires
but
it requires manipulating.
yeah, proper
Yeah,
prompting and
but it gets you
you know,
80% of the way there, and that,
it can.
for most people that are time constrained,
Yeah.
for moms that have kids and people have
Yeah.
busy lives, it's a force multiplier for sure.
It's
Um,
definitely gotten better with the imaging.
Oh,
you
our
know, with the
imaging has
images stuff.
our
Right.
imaging has in I mean, it's 1,000% better in just the past.
S Yeah.
Yeah, we made a switch on a model here about mm, 2 months ago, maybe a month
Mhm.
ago, night and day. I was actually not happy with the outputs before. I just thought it was horrible. Um,
Well, the problem it had in the before was
spelling,
spelling of words.
yeah,
It couldn't do it, and
right,
no matter how many times you scolded it or told it to
yeah,
do it right, it wouldn't make any difference.
yeah,
Now I've noticed that at least the OpenAI platform, the Chat GPT
yeah,
4.0 or what or whatever it is, even 4.5
mm-hmm,
will will actually spell things right, but it won't put all of the text on the image. It'll only
yeah,
put like half of it on the image or something like that. So you have to tell it to slide that text over so I can see it.
yeah. One little
But still making mistakes.
one
That's what I'm saying.
experiment I've been running with, and I still have a hand curator for my tech show that goes out and looks for content.
Mhm.
Digs through. We use what's it's called name of it. It's called Feedly, and we just are subscribed to every RSS feed we could potentially be subscribed to, and then he curates the articles, and then uh, but I've been recently building a agent, not an agent. What's it called in AI? It's called let me get it open here. It's called a GPT.
Oh,
I've been building a
yeah.
new GPT to try to help with show prep. And basically, it's a custom one because I have, basically sources that I need to have it looked at. Give me the most hot stories in tech in the last 3 days, and you
Mhm.
have to feed it, a whole bunch of sources in order to get it to basically put out a list of 50 topics that you pick 20 from. So I've been playing with this a little bit, and I think within a year, and Kirk, your job's safe, don't worry. I think within a year I could replace Kirk and use. But again, then what do we miss? So that's the key here is even though it puts me out a list of 50 topics that are fresh, I have to still go and look at tech meme and other locations to make sure that we didn't miss anything. And it does; it misses stuff quite regularly. And also the same thing is some tech sites now have gotten so political. Um, matter of fact, I called a site out on my show Monday, and just so blatantly, but they have TDR. They hate Trump so bad. And Elon. They hate those two people so bad that every article that has any relation to those two people, they're just it's like a paragraph of n- I don't know way to.
It's kind of a bashing
Oh, it's a
of
bashing, yeah,
right. That's
and
exactly what it is.
so and I don't want to be honest with you. I don't want to even. I'm trying to stay
Be
neutral.
involved in that.
Right?
Right.
It's a tech show, so I'm trying to stay neutral and not bring. Let people generate their own opinion. If Tesla earnings
Mhm.
were up or down, what was it an effect because of what he was doing with Doge or whatever? Okay, then I'll let the listener make that decision. I'm not going to say, well, ha ha ha, they're down, and because he's spending too much time
Yeah.
over at SpaceX. So the problem that I'm having is currently is filtering out the biases and the biased content that is actually still being handwritten. Um,
Well, the irony of all that is one could be seen as bias because you don't wanna talk about the bias.
it's a tech show. I'm reporting about
I
tech
know, I get what you're
news.
saying. I'm just saying that's how crazy our
Yeah.
world has
Now, I'll be
become,
honest
is
with
that
you. I
right,
have no problems going after congressional people or talking
right,
about bills. That side I'm good at when it comes to talking
right.
about policy. And
Yeah.
if policy was changed because someone was a friend, well, then that's fair game for me to talk about, right? So someone got
Mhm.
a sweetheart deal because they're a friend of the administration. I'm gonna talk about that on a tech side.
Yeah.
It's valid, but I don't know. So for me, I think the AI planning stuff is just gonna get better. And
But should you rely on it?
no, you can't right now. You
I
can't
think
rely on it because
that's
it
the big
misses stuff.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I've been working on this GPT for a while, and you overwhelm it because the well, can't really. I don't want to do a
Yeah,
screen
it's like
share
what
here, but
happened on the show today is that you know, the research that I did using AI came up with this investment thing from the Andreessen Horowitz thing into podcast networks that I hadn't heard anywhere else.
hmm
There's nobody else talking about
but
that
it
I've seen.
but at the same time, the podcasting news ecosystem's pretty small right now. Between James, we try over at Podcaster News to put some stuff up, but it's always behind, and
Yeah,
it's all handwritten over there. So the the number of news sources for podcasting is pretty narrow. But when you're
yeah,
doing a tech show, I think my resource catalog is like 1,200 sites. So trying to tell an
yeah. But you're doing
AI,
more than just podcast news, so
oh, on my tech
it
show,
probably doesn't
yeah.
matter.
So I'm talking about it would be easier to build one for this show than it would be for my tech show because I rely on 1,200 news sources to find 25 news stories twice a week.
Yeah. Well, the problem with our genre here is that it's never going to drive a huge
Oh,
audience,
no,
right?
we for sure, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it just it's kind of like at some point it's almost like doing a podcast about telephones, right? It's so mainstream and so accepted and so understood by so many people that there's nothing mysterious about it anymore.
Right,
So,
right.
it's one thing that we've been doing this a long time, and at some point, Todd, it's not going to be new media anymore.
No,
So
that's right.
how do we take that ball to the next level?
Yeah.
Is a question that we're going to have to ask ourselves if we're going to keep this going.
Well, again, we've kind of changed the format up a little bit already, so
Yeah,
trying to stay
yeah,
more focused. I will say that there's an initiative, and the purist in me is take everything away from everyone. Build solutions where people don't need a Patreon. Build solutions where because be honest with you, creators are not trusting many of these platforms now. They're even bringing into the question trusting YouTube and Spotify, and creators are finally waking the hell up on this, and I think that's critical. But a few folks in the podcasting 2.0 space proposed a spec for linking paid feeds in podcast apps that originate. Just basically everything happens within the RSS feed, and it's a noble in in basic a Sam Sethi and others have there's been a few back and forths with me and the podcast index social Mastodon and a few other places where I basically said we're in a time today when there's not enough podcasters that are doing premium content. Um, Premium content now is being delivered. It works very easily. You have a username, a password. It's a secure RSS feed. You can subscribe to a show. You can go on Apple Podcasts. You can do a premium subscription over there
mhm,
to premium content. And they make it easy, one click. What's being proposed is basically trying to go around these folks, go around Patreon, go around the premium offering. But the problem is you don't have you have less than maybe one half of 1% of shows globally that are doing premium content.
yeah,
Just they people. you have to have a pretty massive audience to consider offering premium. And it's a pure math issue. So if you think about having 100 listeners, and let's say 3% subscribe to premium content, there's 3 to 5 people that'll probably subscribe to premium if you're 100. And if you're charging $6 for that, you're going to have to create extra content for 30 bucks. If it's $5 a month, that's 6 people. Now, if you get 1,000 and you can get 30 people, or 630 to 60 people, maybe the math starts looking a little better. But then you got to get to 10,000. And if you use the 3 to 5% math problem, then maybe you're into a position where you could do premium and do okay with it and have enough time to say, okay, I'm going to do an extra episode, or I'm going to give them ad free for $5 a month. Maybe that's math starts working. Well, how many shows are more than 10,000 listeners per episode, Rob? That's a pretty small number of shows.
Yeah.
So this,
Well, at the same time, we're seeing growth in these private platforms too,
yeah.
like a U Screen or
Hmm.
and Patreon is an example
Well,
of it.
page,
You know, Substack is another
yeah,
one that
it's
people are getting more and more involved
it's
in. There's other ones out there
it's
too.
it's very hard to usurp at this point Patreon, Substack, and those other folks that offer this premium content, because it's just easy. People want easy. And I understand buying premium content in an app would be easy, but I think, again, it's such
Yeah,
a small number of people doing it. I don't know.
yeah, but it's not all about people doing this necessarily around podcasts. It's people that are doing it with exclusive video. They're building
Right.
communities
I
around
understand that, but
written content. They're doing it around,
but I'm
like,
referring largely to a
streaming.
spec for podcasting, for
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, for
But if you look at the whole
RSS space. Yeah,
ecosystem,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? If you look at the whole ecosystem of
Yeah.
where the energy is going,
Yeah.
it's going into these private communities because, quite frankly, like we saw with the announcement from Spotify, the advertising market may not be long term strong. So, I think creators have to start thinking outside of the box a little bit and start thinking, beyond just podcasting, creating their own kind of community of subscribers
I
that
think,
are subscribing to get access to their relationships,
ag-
their content,
again,
right?
big shows are doing this, and they're smart to
Yeah,
do so,
right,
you know,
right.
and
That's certainly true.
and again, there's only so many big shows that are in open RSS. Uh, People that are defining a podcast on YouTube that is big, most of those shows do not have a corresponding true open RSS based podcast. They're just strictly on YouTube. So
Yeah, I've heard many creators on YouTube take this perspective too. That I'm going to focus my energy just on this platform,
yeah,
and that's YouTube. I'm not
yeah,
going to spread myself too thin and do a bunch of other platforms, especially when these other platforms are not rewarding me
hmm,
to do cross promotions, right?
no.
So that means that I'm going to have to duplicate everything I'm doing over here and duplicate it over there, and they all want it to be a little different, and so people are like focusing more, right? And to some degree, that's what podcasters should do too. They should, you know, primarily focus
Well,
on what they're doing,
I think
right?
the big ones, I think they're starting to realize that YouTube, Spotify, all these platforms are not necessarily their friend, and are waking up to this. Um, and I
Yeah,
hope more of that happens. And I hope they all look to alternative ways to make sure that their revenue streams, making sure that they're building community, that they're capturing those people
yeah.
external to those platforms.
And that's exactly, I think, what we're both saying
Yeah.
here is that having those direct relationships between you and your audience and driving value in that relationship
Hmm.
bypasses
Yeah.
these big platforms that want to get in the middle of your
Yeah.
relationship.
have your own mailing list, have your own merch store, have all this
Yep.
stuff that is,
Yep.
going to
Yep.
help you, and not giving, 30% to someone because they've hit a premium subscription. Rob, we've made it to the top of the
Yeah,
hour here.
we did. We did.
Mm. I've got quite a few people watching on YouTube. Hey, David, thanks for checking in. So, yeah, so thanks for jumping in. A few on Facebook today as well.
Yeah, I've got 17 on
Oh,
mine.
you're doing better than me. Also, I guess no, the big tsunami that was supposed to hit Hawaii, it ended up
I knew
not.
it was gonna be a dud.
Well, it's good. It was a big earthquake,
Well, it
so
is
thank.
good that it's a dud, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dud is always good.
Yeah.
I was in Hawaii when the big one came about 15 years ago, and they did considerable amount of damage to the harbors and stuff. So nothing
Yeah.
inland, but it was, this pounding power of this, water is so powerful, it's unbelievable. But yeah, thank goodness. 8.3. What a ride.
Oh, no, I thought it was 8.8.
Oh, was it 8? Wow. I was in a one in Guam that was 6 point. It was a shaker. It wasn't a bouncer. It was one of these, and
Oh,
knocked
sideways.
me out
So
of my chair. I was in a sitting. It did. I had my feet up
wow.
on a table, and
Wow.
when it hit, now luckily in my house, it shook this way, and all of my cabinets were this way. So all my cabinets were this, and nothing tipped over. So,
Oh, well,
it-
that's good. I mean, that's
so
why you should secure your bookshelves to the
that's
wall.
right. If you live in an
Yeah.
earthquake zone, yeah, of course, when you have a concrete wall behind your bookshelf, kind of hard to secure your bookshelf. But that's why those little straps are in all bookshelves
Yep.
is for a shaking earthquake. But
Yeah, or if you just have a tall bookshelf, right,
yeah,
that could easily do this, you
yeah,
know.
I've got a tall liquor cabinet right now that I've got secured because I'm just afraid someone's gonna bump it and it's $500 worth of bourbon's gonna get destroyed on the floor.
Yeah, if you live out in the out on, like, on the West Coast or in that part of the world, like I lived in Seattle for many years, I've lived through many earthquakes.
So you secured
It's
your furniture.
well, yeah, and you know what it's like.
Yeah.
So, I went through a few 6.6s and 6.8s and stuff like that over the years, and
So
I was in a brick building one time when it's I think a 6.5 hit Seattle.
I was drinking a beer in a
That
bar
was scary.
in the Philippines with a
Oh,
Philippine construction at the time 4 stories above me, and
oh
the
boy.
bar was waving, and all I could think of was the concrete workmanship of that building. And I couldn't people couldn't get out of that bar fast enough. It was like that all the ants going towards the exit. Hey, by the way, if you're a
Right.
bourbon lover, um, you know, a lot of people listen to the show all over the place. If you're a bourbon hunter, don't forget about me. You get into some place and someone's got a great deal on, some allocated or something that looks cool. Always feel free to text me because I've got Venmo. I have Cash App. I'll be always on the hunt here for good
Good
bourbon.
bourbon?
Yeah.
Oh,
So my flavor profile is definitely I'm a Buffalo Trace kind of profile. So if that gives you any
mm,
idea, or Green River or
okay.
Michter's or yeah. So Rob, this is one hobby you don't want to get into.
Right. Yeah, so I was gonna say, I would recommend it. Right.
Yeah, it's
It's a connoisseuring kind of a thing,
you
right?
know
It's like it's like connoisseur of cigars or
of
something like
wine,
that.
that type of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and it's just like, does it really taste that much better? That bottle that was $40 on the shelf versus the one that is 369 is the taste that much better than I'm thinking, well, 360 whatever it is, and you only get
yeah,
750 milliliter or not seven whatever the bottle size is, 75
yeah.
mils or whatever. You say, what is that? That's like $40 a drink.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
is it worth it really to be this
Is it
big, you know,
is it, worth it to your liver? I guess is the
well,
next question.
at an ounce at a time, you know, uh,
Right.
but it's just like wine, people
Right.
spending big money for a bottle of wine. So, one thing about bourbon, it lasts a hell of a lot longer than wine does. You open it up, you got to drink it. So,
I don't drink any of it anymore, Todd.
yeah. No, I
So,
I I still do. So, all right,
yeah.
Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter, at Geek News, at geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
RobGreenlee.com, great place to get a hold of me. If you want to send me an email, you're welcome to send it to robgreenlee@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. So, be found on all the social platforms, YouTube, um, doing stuff on a regular basis, guest on shows, guest on group events, all sorts of stuff. So, if you just look at the posts that I make, you can see all the stuff I'm doing. I'm increasingly talking about AI and how humans and AI are going to work together, Todd.
Well, I've been using the AI operator from OpenAI. Been talking about it quite a bit on my tech show. It's
Oh, have you been playing around with the agent capability in OpenAI now,
because I'm still paying for the. Here's people are.
or the Pro plan?
I'm
Right.
still paying for the pro plan, the $200 a month. I'm getting at least 1 to 2 projects a week that pay for it in research.
That's good.
Yeah,
Are
that
you using that agent technology to do that?
I'm not. The agent technology, though, I give you an example, and I know we were just about ready to sign off here. And again, this is the operator.chatgpt. I said, look for
Yeah.
the cheapest flights to Manila from Chicago starting on October
Oh,
15th with a return flight between January 3rd and January 9th. My preference carries United, and I will pay a slightly higher price for those flights. The output was incredible. I let it go to work, worked for 5 minutes, and it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 flight options. Gave me the lowest fare, the medium. It gave me the best day to return on. I didn't take it any further than that. I didn't say go book the ticket or anything, but um, I would have
you
spent.
could, right?
I
I
could,
mean, you could do that, right?
yeah, I could have. Well, I don't know if it lets you do that at this point. It gets you almost to that point. I could have. No, 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 not could have. That would have took me an hour of
Yeah,
personal
just to look
time.
at all of the different
Look at all
flights, and
different flights and sort, and it always is frustrating.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I've done it
And
many times. I know.
and so for me, I was like, okay, 5 minutes, do the research. I pick one, book it. I'm done. I've just saved 55 minutes or 50 minutes of my
Mhm.
time.
Right.
So this is where the operator functions are going to save you time.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll save you money too, because it's able to find the best deals.
And maybe it's anonymously searching and it doesn't know it's you, and you're not the logarithm because they know you're going to buy the ticket. Yeah, yeah. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy. I don't ever use. I always use an incognito window whenever I'm searching for flights. I don't log into anything, and I use an incognito right up to the point where I buy the purchase and I sign in, and then it knows who I am because I don't want
Is
them.
there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, because they know you,
Who,
and
the airlines?
airlines, everybody knows you, and the airlines are doing AI based pricing now.
Mm. So if they know you and you're willing to pay a higher price, they will
Exactly.
give
It
you a
and it
higher
might be
price.
$100, but $100 is $100,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I can save $50 here, $25 there, 15, 20, whatever it is, it's in the end in this economy. Good lord,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Of course, the economy they say is on fire right now. If it is, where's the podcasters?
I was gonna say, I think it's on fire, but it's burning down.
Well, that's what everyone's saying, Rob. So it hasn't burnt down yet.
No, I know, I know.
Yeah.
I was more talking about other aspects of it.
Oh.
Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm hearing rumors that from people I'm talking to that are trying to make plans to go to podcast movement, that there's not that many people going at this point. is what I'm hearing, some rumors bouncing around right now.
Well, l- look at the speaker lineup.
Well, that's probably the majority of the attendees. No, but I don't know about that. I
Well,
mean, so what are you trying to say around the
I don't know. We got 2 sessions. We never get 2 sessions. Mike and I both got sessions. That was my thing. And we applied late on the last day
Oh, you
of
did?
submissions. I
Yeah.
didn't expect to get one because I thought I was going to be late.
Yeah.
So, and been awful quiet out of that team. The team hasn't. There's there's news, but there's not a lot of news.
Yeah, I'm not hearing a lot of announcements out
Yeah,
of I mean,
it's
James does a fair amount of plugs above it, but
yeah.
he's part of
He
podcast
has to.
movement, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
Not well. Well, I don't. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. Okay.
yeah.
Everyone, will see you back here next week. Thank you for being here. Take care.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.